In a luxurious mansion in Beverly Hills, Sarah Thompson, a 42-year-old woman, stared at her reflection in the mirror of the Italian marble walk-in closet. Her brown eyes, once bright, were now brimming with tears as her trembling hands held the dress that no longer fit. 15 years of marriage to Richard Thompson, one of the most successful real estate brokers in Los Angeles, had left deep marks, not only on her body but, most of all, on her soul. "Take a deep breath and look at yourself," Sarah whispered. To her reflection, a habit she had developed ever since she started gaining weight after her second failed pregnancy. The doctor had explained that the weight gain was due to hormones and depression, but Richard had shown no understanding. The 16,000-square-foot mansion, which had once been her sanctuary, now felt like a gilded prison. The endless hallways echoed, with Richard's constant criticism. "You're turning our home into a pigsty just like you're letting your body go." Every word was like a dagger to her heart. That autumn morning, while organizing Richard's closet, one of the countless tasks he demanded she perform to perfection, Sarah found something that would change her life forever. A receipt from an exclusive restaurant, dated the night before, when Richard had told her he was at a business meeting. But it wasn't the astronomical bill that caught her attention. It was the signature on the back of the paper. Melissa Carter, her personal trainer. Sarah's world started spinning. Melissa, the beautiful young 28-year-old professional Richard, had insisted on hiring to help her get back in shape, had just appeared at a romantic dinner with her husband. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. The late-night calls, the meetings that stretched into the evening, the unfamiliar perfumes on his shirts. As her legs weakened, Sarah leaned against the closet wall, feeling the cold marble against her back. Memories of the past few months flooded her mind like a tsunami. The exchanged glances between Richard and Melissa during workouts in their private gym, the shared laughter, the accidental touches. The sound of the mansion's front door opening downstairs made her heart race. Richard was home earlier than usual. His heavy, determined footsteps echoed up the stairs until he found Sarah still in the closet, the crumpled receipt clenched in her trembling hands. The cynical smirk that formed on Richard's lips sent a chill down her spine. There was no remorse, no attempt to deny it, just a cruel satisfaction in his icy blue eyes. "Since you've figured it out, let's clear some things up," he said, his voice as cold as the marble around them. "Melissa is much more than my lover. She's the kind of woman I deserve by my side. Young, beautiful, dedicated. Everything you stopped being." Sarah felt as if every word was a slap across her face, but what came next would be even more devastating. "From now on, you have two choices," Richard continued, adjusting his Italian silk tie. "You can leave this house with nothing. After all, everything is in my name, or you can stay and maintain your lifestyle as our housekeeper. Melissa will be moving in next week." The air seemed to vanish from Sarah's lungs. Her legs finally gave out, and she slid down to the floor, still clutching the receipt that had exposed her humiliation. "Oh, and Sarah," Richard added, already turning to leave, "if you choose to stay, I expect you to maintain the same level of dedication you've always had to this house. Melissa deserves a pristine home." The sound of Richard's footsteps fading down the hallway left Sarah alone with her pain and humiliation. But as tears streamed down her face, something inside her began to shift. A small flicker of rage ignited in her chest, a flicker that would soon turn into an inferno of revenge. The days following the discovery of the affair turned into a vivid, unending nightmare for Sarah. Melissa's move into the mansion took place on a sunny Sunday morning. Ironically, the very day Sarah and Richard used to have their special brunches in the early years of their marriage. The symbolism of that choice was not lost on her. It was as if Richard was deliberately desecrating every happy memory they had built together. The scene that unfolded that morning would forever be etched into Sarah's memory. Melissa arrived, driving a white convertible Mercedes, Richard's gift, of course, with several designer suitcases being carried in by the moving staff. Her platinum blonde hair shimmered under the California sun, and her sculpted body was draped in a Versace dress Sarah instantly recognized from the latest collection. Ironically, the same dress she had once admired in a magazine, only for Richard to scoff that it would be a waste to spend that much on a dress you wouldn't even be able to zip up. The transformation of their household dynamic was brutal and immediate. Richard made sure to relocate Sarah to the old maid's quarters, a modest room on the ground floor, near the laundry room. Though larger than most standard apartments, the room felt claustrophobic compared to the master suite she had occupied for 15 years. The mahogany wardrobe that once housed her designer clothes had been replaced with a simple metal locker, now filled with gray housekeeper uniforms, all personally selected by Melissa, who seemed to take sadistic pleasure in every humiliating detail. The king-size bed with an orthopedic mattress was gone, replaced by a narrow twin bed with a thin mattress that left Sarah's back aching every morning, as if each sunrise had to remind her of her new place in the house. Mornings, once filled with painting classes and social gatherings at the country club, now began at 5:30 a.m. with an endless list of household chores. Sarah was forced to prepare the elaborate breakfast Melissa demanded: poached eggs at a precise temperature, smoothies made with imported organic ingredients, and handcrafted gluten-free bread. As she served the couple breakfast in bed, yes, her former bed, she was forced to witness exaggerated displays of affection, as if every kiss and touch were deliberately calculated to maximize her humiliation. Richard, who had always complained about Sarah's weight, now enthusiastically praised every meal she prepared, while Melissa made sure to comment how it's comforting to have someone of Sarah's size in the kitchen. After all, fat people are usually better cooks. Afternoons dragged on in a succession of degrading tasks. Melissa made a habit of leaving her lingerie scattered across the bedroom, forcing Sarah to hand-wash the expensive pieces she used to seduce Richard. Each suspicious stain was like a dagger to her heart, a physical reminder of the betrayal she was now literally being forced to clean up. The personal trainer turned mistress turned lady of the house had developed a special pleasure in setting absurd rules. The bed sheets had to be changed daily and ironed with French lavender essence. The bathrooms had to be cleaned 3 times a day. Every surface in the house had to shine in a specific way. And God help Sarah if a single fingerprint was found on the mirrors or the stainless steel of the gourmet kitchen. Nights, which should have brought some relief, became a new kind of torment. The thin walls of the maid's quarters couldn't muffle the sounds from upstairs, where her husband and his lover made a point of being particularly loud in their nightly activities. Sarah would lie on her narrow bed, silent tears streaming down her face as she clutched a rosary, the last gift from her late mother, so tightly that her fingers turned white. Her nights were filled with vivid nightmares, visions of herself drowning in piles of dirty laundry and broken dishes, while Richard and Melissa laughed at her from the deck of a luxury yacht. But it was during one of these moments of deep, nocturnal anguish that something inside Sarah began to shift. As she gazed at her reflection in the small service bathroom mirror, her tears began to dry, giving way to a different expression. It was as if a new person was emerging from the depths of her shattered soul. The daily humiliations, rather than completely breaking her, were beginning to fuel something darker, something more powerful. Every veiled insult from Melissa, every look of disdain from Richard, every degrading task. It was all being carefully recorded in a mental diary, transforming into fuel for something she didn't yet fully understand. On one particularly difficult night, after being forced to clean out the closet while Melissa tried on her old designer clothes, which had of course been reallocated by the new lady of the house, Sarah made an accidental discovery that would change everything. Hidden among old shoeboxes, she found an external hard drive, one that Richard had always kept guarded, the same one he had sworn he had lost years ago. Her hands trembled as she plugged it into her basic laptop, and what she found inside made her heart race. Documents, emails, contracts. Richard's entire real estate empire was there, including evidence of questionable transactions and schemes that would certainly be of interest to the tax authorities. The discovery of the external hard drive triggered a profound transformation in Sarah, like a chrysalis slowly preparing to emerge as something entirely new and unexpected. During her long, sleepless nights, while the sounds of pleasure echoed from the upstairs bedroom like a cruel symphony, she meticulously studied every document she found, building her understanding of Richard's corrupt empire. The basic laptop she kept hidden beneath her thin mattress became her window into a world of vengeful possibilities, and each new discovery was like a piece of a macabre puzzle coming together before her eyes. The evidence was overwhelming. Money, laundering through shell real estate companies, bribes to construction inspectors, tax evasion on an astronomical scale, and an intricate web of offshore accounts, perfect for hiding assets in case of a future divorce settlement. The irony was not lost on Sarah. By day, she maintained her facade as a submissive servant, enduring the increasingly creative humiliations Melissa devised. The new lady of the house seemed to have a special talent for orchestrating degrading situations. She hosted dinners with her gym friends and made sure Sarah served them while wearing a deliberately tight uniform, as the guests whispered and giggled, discreetly pointing at her fuller figure. On one particularly cruel occasion, Melissa threw a poolside party and demanded that Sarah wear a French maid's outfit while serving drinks to the guests, many of whom were former acquaintances from the country club who now treated her like a complete stranger. The scorching California sun burned her skin as she balanced trays of hors d'oeuvres, watching her old social circle laugh and revel in their designer swimwear, as if she were completely invisible, or worse, as if her humiliation was part of the entertainment. But each humiliation now served a different purpose. It was a smokescreen for her real work. While cleaning Richard's office, Sarah discreetly photographed important documents. While serving drinks at the couple's parties, her ears were tuned to incriminating conversations between Richard and his associates. Her apparent submission was the perfect camouflage. After all, who would suspect the overweight, humiliated housekeeper? The same social invisibility that had once wounded her was now her greatest ally. Sarah realized that privileged people had a disturbing tendency to discuss their darkest secrets in front of those they considered insignificant, as if domestic workers were mere furniture, devoid of ears, devoid of intelligence. During her rare moments of free time, usually on Sunday afternoons when Richard and Melissa took the yacht out, Sarah started going to a gym in a distant neighborhood where no one knew her. It wasn't one of the high-end fitness clubs of Beverly Hills, but a simple establishment frequented by everyday people, workers, real people. That's where she met Marcus, a former military officer who now worked as a personal trainer. Unlike Melissa, Marcus had a kind and understanding approach to fitness. He not only helped her develop a proper workout plan, but also became her first true confidant in months. With his military background and connections in the security industry, Marcus would soon become a key piece in the puzzle of vengeance Sarah was assembling. The physical transformation began slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. Rage and determination were powerful fuels, and each workout was fueled by the image of Richard and Melissa laughing at her downfall. The long hours spent cleaning the three-story mansion became an unintentional workout, and gradually, her body started to respond. But more important than the physical change was the mental metamorphosis taking place. Every new document she uncovered, every incriminating conversation she overheard, every humiliation she endured, each became another step on the staircase leading her to revenge. Sarah wasn't just planning retaliation, she was orchestrating the complete and systematic destruction of everything Richard valued most. On one particularly significant night, while organizing Melissa's closet, now filled with the designer clothes that had once been hers, Sarah found something that made her heart race: a positive pregnancy test, carefully hidden at the back of a lingerie drawer. For a moment it felt as though the air had been sucked from the room. But instead of the despair she might have felt months ago, a dark smile formed on her lips. This discovery wasn't a blow. It was another piece of the puzzle, another variable in the equation of her revenge. As she placed the test back in its hiding spot, Sarah realized that the universe had a peculiar sense of humor. The very pregnancy Melissa was likely planning to use as a weapon to solidify her position could, in the right hands, become something entirely different. The following months unfolded like an elaborate game of chess, where every move was meticulously calculated by Sarah. Melissa's pregnancy had added a new sense of urgency to her plan, especially as she observed the subtle changes in Richard's behavior. The man who once paraded Melissa around like a dazzling trophy was now showing signs of unease, particularly in the mornings when his young lover suffered from bouts of nausea. Sarah noticed every flicker of irritation in his eyes when Melissa complained about morning sickness or when her hormones made her overly emotional. It was fascinating to watch. The same man who had destroyed their marriage for this younger woman was now beginning to show signs of regret, even if they were still imperceptible to his new partner. The couple's small arguments, which were becoming more frequent, were music to Sarah's ears. She remained in her role as the invisible servant, absorbing every detail as she served breakfast or cleaned the mansion's many rooms. During this period, Sarah developed an even more rigorous routine. Her mornings now started even earlier, at 4:30 a.m., when she dedicated a full hour to working out in her tiny room, using the weights Marcus had given her. The former maid's quarters had transformed into a sort of headquarters for her revenge. Underneath the thin mattress, along with her laptop, she now kept a folder filled with carefully organized, incriminating documents. In a false bottom she had built into her metal wardrobe, she stored a prepaid phone used exclusively for secret communications. And in an innocent-looking shoebox, she kept a detailed journal of all of Richard's suspicious activities, including times, names, and the amounts of questionable transactions she uncovered while carrying out her household chores. Sarah's physical transformation continued progressing steadily, though she made a point of concealing the changes beneath deliberately loose uniforms. Her training sessions with Marcus at the distant gym had evolved into a full-scale transformation program, not just physical exercise but also nutrition guidance and, most importantly, self-defense training. The former military officer had become more than just her trainer. He was now a crucial ally in her plan for revenge. With his background in security and military intelligence, Marcus helped her better understand the documents she found and introduced her to people who could be useful when the time was right. One of them was Laura, a lawyer specializing in family and criminal law, who had quietly begun building a solid case based on the evidence Sarah was collecting. At home, the dynamic between Richard and Melissa continued to deteriorate subtly. The pregnancy, which had initially seemed like the cherry on top for Melissa, was becoming a constant source of tension. Richard, who had always been obsessed with appearances, was beginning to show discomfort with the changes in his young lover's body. Sarah watched with silent satisfaction as he made seemingly innocent remarks about the weight Melissa was gaining, or casually suggested that she shouldn't eat so much sugar. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. The same criticism he had once directed at Sarah now had a new target. And Melissa, whose entire self-worth was built around her physical appearance, was completely unprepared for this kind of scrutiny. Nights became Sarah's most productive hours. While the couple slept, she meticulously photographed important documents, copied suspicious contracts, and cataloged every piece of evidence of illegal activity she found. Her basic laptop now contained a digital time bomb, detailed spreadsheets of shady transactions, incriminating emails recovered from the external hard drive, and even recordings of conversations she had discreetly captured during the parties and business meetings she was forced to serve at. Every piece of evidence was carefully sent to Laura through a secure communication system that Marcus had helped her set up. The daily humiliation continued, but Sarah now saw it differently. Every absurd demand from Melissa, every cruel remark, every degrading task was just another brick in the wall she was building around the couple, a wall that would soon come crashing down on their heads. She watched with scientific curiosity as Melissa, in her youthful arrogance, failed to realize that her attempts at humiliation were losing their effect. The old Sarah, the insecure, broken woman, was dying a slow death, making way for someone stronger, more determined, and most importantly, far more dangerous. On a particularly significant night, as the first signs of California autumn set in, Sarah executed the first phase of her meticulously planned act of revenge. The timing could not have been more perfect. Richard had organized a grand party to officially announce Melissa's pregnancy, an event that would gather the elite of Beverly Hills, including his top business partners, influential politicians, and prominent figures in the real estate industry. The mansion was immaculately decorated, Sarah's work, of course, with lavish white and gold floral arrangements that had cost a small fortune, gleaming crystal accents, and strategically positioned lighting to create an atmosphere of luxury and sophistication. Melissa, now 4 months pregnant and still managing to maintain her slender figure aside from the small curve of her growing belly, wore an exclusive Valentino gown, custom-tailored for the occasion. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. It was the same designer Richard had always deemed wasted on her body when they were married. During the party preparations, Sarah moved through the mansion like an efficient shadow, overseeing the catering staff, adjusting decorations, and ensuring every detail was flawless. Her gray uniform, deliberately chosen a size too big to conceal, her physical transformation allowed her to blend in seamlessly with the other staff, making her practically invisible to the arriving guests. As she poured champagne into crystal flutes, she watched with calculated interest the interactions among the attendees, particularly the tense expressions of certain business partners when Melissa announced that she would now be an official partner in her husband's company, a decision Sarah knew would send seismic tremors through Richard's carefully built corporate empire. The night's pivotal moment arrived when Richard, slightly intoxicated from premium champagne and his own arrogance, stepped onto the small stage set up by the pool to deliver his speech. With Melissa by his side, radiant in her designer gown, and gently cradling her slightly swollen belly, he began to speak about new beginnings, about how life sometimes presents unexpected paths to happiness. It was at that exact moment that Sarah, strategically positioned near the sound system, remotely activated the first trigger of her plan. All the state-of-the-art televisions scattered throughout the mansion, along with the massive screen set up for the party, suddenly began broadcasting a very different presentation than the one Richard had planned. On screen, emails, contracts, and incriminating documents, carefully curated from the external hard drive Sarah had found months earlier, flashed before the stunned audience. The evidence of tax evasion, bribery, and money laundering was crystal clear, presented in a way that even the least business-savvy guests could grasp the magnitude of Richard's crimes. Among the documents were photos of Richard in compromising situations with other women, not just Melissa, but several others over the years, including the wives of some men in the crowd. The murmurs started low but quickly erupted into full-blown chaos. Business partners made frantic phone calls. Enraged wives stormed out in tears, and politicians desperately tried to distance themselves from the scandal unfolding before their eyes. Melissa, who had been beaming in her Valentino gown just moments before, slowly realized that her fairy tale was unraveling. The color drained from her face as the evidence continued to play out on the screens, particularly when documents surfaced showing that Richard had begun transferring large sums of money into offshore accounts the moment he found out about her pregnancy. A clear preparation for an inevitable abandonment that, in her naivete, she had failed to see coming. The young woman who had so proudly stolen Sarah's husband was now faced with the brutal reality that she was just another disposable conquest in a long line of discarded women. From her position near the kitchen, Sarah watched it all unfold, her face a mask of professional efficiency as chaos erupted around her. Through a discreet earpiece, she received updates from Marcus, who was coordinating a team of private investigators stationed strategically around the property. Simultaneously with the broadcast of the documents, digital copies were being sent to tax authorities, public prosecutors, and, most devastating of all, to every major competitor in Richard's real estate market. The destruction wasn't just social or financial, it was absolute. The chaos that followed the public exposé was even more devastating than Sarah had planned. As the last guests left the mansion in shock and outrage, Richard desperately tried to call his lawyers, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his phone. Melissa, completely distraught, swung between hysterical sobs and fits of rage, her once perfect Valentino gown now smeared with mascara and foundation, a fitting visual metaphor for her world crumbling around her. It was in this moment that Sarah chose to reveal her true transformation, both physical and psychological, in a scene that would forever be etched into the memories of everyone present. With a deliberately theatrical motion, she removed her oversized maid's uniform, revealing beneath it a sleek black dress that hugged her newly toned curves, the result of months of intense training with Marcus. Her hair, once tightly pinned, In a severe bun fell in soft waves, framing a face no longer marked by submission, but by unshakable confidence. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard, who had spent years humiliating her for her appearance, now stared at her with a mix of shock and something that looked very much like belated regret. Melissa, on the other hand, looked as if she had seen a ghost, her hand instinctively cradling her growing belly as if she were finally grasping the magnitude of the mistake she had made in underestimating the woman she had so ruthlessly humiliated. With a calm that starkly contrasted the chaos around her, Sarah began methodically explaining how she had documented every illegal transaction, every secret meeting, every stolen dollar over the past few months. Her voice, firm and controlled, echoed through the now silent mansion as she revealed how every daily humiliation had been transformed into an opportunity to collect evidence. As she spoke, a team of federal agents, led by contacts Marcus had cultivated during his years in military service, began entering the property. The search and seizure warrant they carried was only the tip of the legal iceberg about to sink Richard. Sarah's revenge, however, extended far beyond Richard's professional and legal downfall. With Laura's help, she had built an airtight case for psychological abuse and financial exploitation. Every humiliation she had endured had been documented, every degrading task recorded, creating a devastating dossier that would not only guarantee her rightful share of their fortune but also serve as an example for other women in similar situations. The cherry on top was a deal she had secretly negotiated with Richard's biggest competitors. In exchange for insider information on his illegal practices, she would be given a high-ranking position at one of the country's largest real estate firms, an ironic twist for the woman who had been forced to work as a servant in her own home. Melissa, who had spent months delighting in Sarah's suffering, now found herself in a particularly precarious position. The pregnancy she had planned to use as leverage for a luxurious future had suddenly become a crushing burden with Richard's impending arrest and the freezing of his assets. In one final act of supreme irony, Sarah handed her an envelope. Inside, a letter of recommendation for a housekeeping position in a suburban family home, along with a gray uniform identical to the one she had been forced to wear. Sometimes, Sarah said with a serene smile, we need to experience the other side of the coin to truly understand the value of humility. The final blow came when Sarah revealed that she had secretly purchased the mansion through a shell company, using insider knowledge she had gathered during her months as a housekeeper. The house that had been the backdrop of her humiliation was now legally hers, and her first action as the new owner was to order Richard and Melissa to vacate the property immediately. As the disgraced couple was escorted out by federal agents, Sarah slowly ascended the grand staircase toward the master suite, her former bedroom now rightfully hers once again. A year had passed since that fateful night in Beverly Hills, and the transformation in Sarah's life was as complete as it was irreversible. The mansion that had once been her gilded prison underwent a full renovation, erasing every trace of Richard and Melissa's presence. The walls, once adorned with photos of the couple, now displayed carefully selected artwork Sarah had collected from her travels around the world, a passion she had rediscovered after her liberation. The walk-in closet, which had once witnessed countless tears, had been completely redesigned, now housing a wardrobe that celebrated her new silhouette and, more importantly, her reclaimed self-esteem. The maid's quarters, where she had spent months meticulously planning her revenge, had been transformed into a pro bono law office, where she and Laura provided free legal assistance to women in abusive and vulnerable situations. Richard, the once powerful real estate mogul, was now serving a significant sentence in a medium-security federal prison. His attempts to negotiate a deal with prosecutors had been crushed when Sarah, through her new contacts in the real estate world, provided even more damning evidence of his fraudulent schemes. His downfall was as spectacular as it was complete. Beyond the criminal charges, he faced civil lawsuits from nearly all of his former business partners, and his once glowing reputation in the industry was irreparably destroyed. The same newspapers that had once featured him in stories about the king of Beverly Hills real estate now painted him as the disgraced protagonist of one of the biggest financial scandals of the decade. Melissa's fall was even more dramatic. Heavily pregnant and with no access to Richard's now frozen assets, She was forced to return to her middle-class family in Arizona, the same relatives she had so proudly abandoned when she began her affair with Richard. The last Sarah had heard of her through whispers in social circles, Melissa was working as a receptionist at a local gym, her growing belly serving as a constant reminder of her poor choices. The baby, a girl, was born healthy, but Richard from prison contested the paternity, delivering one final blow to the ego of the woman who had once prided herself on winning over a rich man. Sarah, on the other hand, had flourished in ways she never imagined possible. What had begun as a physical transformation for revenge had evolved into a deeper symbol of her inner renewal. Her training sessions with Marcus had grown into something more profound, a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine admiration. Unlike her marriage to Richard, this new relationship was founded on equality and true partnership. Marcus, with his military background and unshakable sense of justice, became not just her romantic partner, but also her business partner. Together, they launched a corporate security consulting firm specializing in protecting companies from internal fraud and irony that wasn't lost on anyone. The impact of her story extended far beyond her personal life. The case gained national attention, becoming the subject of documentaries and investigative reports. Sarah was invited to speak at conferences on women's empowerment and resilience, sharing her experience to inspire others facing similar struggles. Her memoir, From Submission to Redemption, a story of revenge and rebirth, became an international bestseller, with all proceeds going to her foundation, which supports women who have suffered psychological and financial abuse. The Beverly Hills mansion, once a symbol of her imprisonment, had been transformed into a beacon of hope. In addition to the pro bono law office, Sarah established a support center for women in vulnerable situations, offering legal aid, professional training programs, and financial literacy workshops. The same walls that had witnessed her humiliation now echoed with stories of strength and survival. The room where she had once plotted her revenge had been turned into a library dedicated to women's rights and financial empowerment. In her quietest moments, often shared with Marcus during their evening walks through the mansion's now lush, Zen-inspired garden, a sanctuary she had personally designed, Sarah reflected on how her revenge had become something far greater than herself. It was no longer just about punishing Richard and Melissa. It was about transforming her pain into purpose, her humiliation into power, and her downfall into an ascent. Every woman who walked through her doors seeking help was another opportunity to turn a story of submission into a narrative of triumph. And so, on peaceful Beverly Hills nights as she gazed out over the city that had once been the backdrop of her greatest humiliation, Sarah smiled, not with bitterness or resentment, but with the serenity of a woman who had finally found her true purpose. Her revenge had not just been served cold. It had been crafted into a banquet of justice, one that would continue to nourish hope and change lives for generations to come. Sarah's story is more than just entertainment. It's a call for reflection. Have you ever felt wronged like she did? Or maybe you've witnessed something similar happen to someone close to you. I need you to share your experience right now, in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone out there needs to read today to find their own courage. And there's more. Which part of Sarah's revenge was the most satisfying for you? Or do you think she took it too far? Whatever your opinion is, I need to hear it. Your comments shape the content of this channel. Oh, and if this story hit you as hard as it hit me, do this right now. Smash that like button, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. Why? Because I have so many more jaw-dropping comeback stories waiting for you, and trust me, you don't want to miss them. Come on, be part of this community that loves stories that make us think. Your comment could be the turning point in someone's life today. Never underestimate the power of your words. Drop a comment now, and let's keep this conversation